All right, so this morning is what to say and when to say it. So what kind of questions do you all have around that? I know last week Brittany was saying she didn't know really how to meet people out. So is anybody having any questions about that, or do we want to talk about what happens if you have a listing and somebody calls off your sign, what you say?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay. So a lot of times what happens is when you, and the other thing is we'll talk about is the golden letter. Is anybody sending out, well, I know Melissa, you're probably new, and Caroline, I know you've been kind of busy, but is anybody sending out the golden letters? And if you're not, I would say it's a very inexpensive way to get leads. And I've been doing it now for 3 weeks, and I just got my first come list me call yesterday. And he said, hey, I got your letter about 3 weeks ago, and my wife and I are building a house down in Atlanta, and we've decided we want to go ahead and sell, and we'll go in temporary housing for a year. So when can you come over? I mean, that doesn't get any better than that, right? And I think I spent maybe $150 on stamps, on envelopes, and paying the person who's actually doing the work, handwriting the envelopes and sending the letters and everything like that. So very inexpensive way to have listing leads. And so let's talk about what happens if you did that and somebody called you and said, hey, I got your letter, I'd like for you to come list me. Well, then you have a series of questions that you want to ask. First of all, you want to say, it's so nice talking with you. I'm so excited to come see your home and, help you with the sale of your home, but may I ask you some questions so I can be better prepared for our meeting? And then they typically will say yes. And then you want to say, so let me make sure I have the spelling of your name correct, because that's a huge one. I can't tell you, even in PC, how many people misspell my name. And I don't really get, I'm chill about it, but I get everything from Candice to Candance. And what it feels like is that somebody doesn't take enough trouble to know how to spell your name. And definitely we don't want to do that with our clients, right? That's just like kind of slapping them in the face. So take the time to ask them the spelling of their name, ask them how many people will be involved in the sale of the home. That's a nice way to say, are you married? Do you have kids? And typically they'll say, well, it's my wife and I. And then I'll say, just you and your wife. And then they say yes. And I'll ask for the spelling of the wife's name. And I'll say, your wife will be present when we meet. And that's an implied yes. And they'll say yes, because you want both decision makers there. What happens, and we, as nice as we are, sometimes what happens is we'll say, oh yeah, I can just meet with you. And then what happens is that person that you've met with waters down everything that you've said, because you're careful about what you say, or we're careful about what we say, and it gets watered down to the spouse, and then the spouse isn't impressed at all, right? So we want to make sure that both parties are there for any meeting. Then I'll say, so it's just you and your wife. Yes, coming in. I'll say just you and your wife, and they'll say, well, we have 2 kids, and then in this case, his parents live with him. And I'll say, oh, do you mind if I ask the ages and spellings of their names? And so then you get that information. And then I go on to say, well, tell me a little bit about why you're selling, because you want to find out their motivation. And in this case, I found out that, hi, Travis. In this case, I found out that they are building a home. And I said, so is this the first home you've ever built? And he said, yes, but my dad was a builder and I'm an architect. So we're working off designs that I made. And so that gave us a whole lot of other talking points, because of course, I got to ask about the house and some of the features of the house, and, talk about his interest, ask him about his interest, which is building his house and being an architect. And then I want to know how long I can look a lot of things up. Thank you, Travis. I can look a lot of this up, but I want to engage with the client. So I asked him, so tell me a little bit about how long have you lived in your home? What kind of equity do you have in your home? And I'm weaving this in and out of a conversation and not interrogating. So after everything that he says, I say, oh, that's really interesting. Or so you've been there quite a while, and what's prompting your move? I'm still digging deeper to find motivation. And then I'm going to find out about his timing. And so I asked, so how quickly do you want your home to be on the market? And he said, well, pretty quickly. And we've decided we're going into, sorry, it's noisy down here. We've decided we're going into temporary housing. So we're fine with selling it now. And then I asked, well, so tell me about your home, a little bit about your home. I'm excited to come see it. But have you made any upgrades in the past 5 years? How old is your home? And again, I can look all this up. I can't look up the upgrades, but I want to know, have they maintained the home before I go, or am I going to have to prepare for making suggestions around painting and flooring and that kind of thing? Any questions so far? Y'all are quiet this morning, and I haven't even had my coffee yet. So anyway, I'm digging deeper. I'm doing the seller intake, but in a very conversational manner. And at the end of the conversation, after I found out, why they're selling, what they think their home is worth, I've looked while I'm on the phone with him. If I'm able to, I'm looking up comps in the neighborhood so that I can talk to the homes that have been selling in there. I happen to have a friend who just sold a home in there, so I know what that home sold for, or what that home is pending for, because she's actually somebody years ago that I mentored on site, which was pretty cool. And she called me. What happened was she called me and said, hey, my clients got your letter and they wanted to know if it was for sure. And she said, and they showed it to me. I was like, Candace, story. Yeah, it's for real. And then she called me and she said, I just wanted you to know we already have an offer. And I said, well, the reason I'm sending out the letters is because my buyers don't want to be in a multiple bid situation. She was like, oh, totally understandable. So anyway, that was a nice coincidence. And those kinds of things will happen to you as you get in the business and you develop friendships, and even in other brokerages. I mean, it's not like there's only Keller Williams. There's plenty of great agents out there with other brokerages. And so you can work those relationships, because normally an agent will not tell you when something is pending what the sale price is. And the reason for that is, and if anybody ever calls you, I always ask if I need it for my pricing or for an appraisal. But if somebody would ask me and I'm representing the seller, I would say, I'm not comfortable giving that information up. And the reason why is because it lets them know what the seller accepted. And if the home comes back on the market, then and they have a buyer, they know they can go in at that price and that it will be accepted. And you might be trying to get a better price for your sellers. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. So I've talked with him a little bit about what he thinks the home is worth. I talked with him a little bit about what upgrades they've done in the home. And then at the end of that conversation, I say, well, when would you like to meet? Are weekends or weekdays better for you? And he said weekends. And I said, well, I'm booked this weekend. How does next Saturday look? And he said, Saturday morning. And I said, how about 10 o'clock? And he said, yeah. So we've got an appointment next Saturday at 10. And I actually am rearranging some things because I really want to meet with him sooner than later, if that makes sense, in case he's contacting other agents. So I've got somebody to work for me this Saturday morning, so I can be with, call him and say I can meet with him. So any questions around that? So we're talking, Travis, and I can't remember when you came on, but we're talking about when you send out the golden letters and you get a response back from it, how to handle that. The other thing that's going to happen is, thank you, is if you have a sign in the yard, and I'm focusing on listings because I think that I know a lot of times it's easier to start with buyers, and we'll go over what to say with buyers as well. But when you have a sign in the yard, a listing sign in the yard, sometimes you get calls off the sign, and sometimes those turn into buyers, and sometimes those turn into listings. So you want to make sure that you're prepared when somebody calls you off a sign and says, I saw your sign, I'm interested in this house, tell me about the house. What information do you give out and what information do you not give out? Because what you don't want to do is say, oh, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home and it's listed for $280,000 or $380,000. And then they have no reason to continue the conversation. They got everything they needed, right? So you say, well, this home happens to have 3 bedrooms. How many are you looking for? And then you start that conversation. So 3 bedrooms, and tell me a little bit about why 3 bedrooms. I never am gonna, hi. I'm never gonna ask about kids or spouses, right? I'm always just gonna ask about, so tell me a little bit about why you need 3 bedrooms and how many people are gonna be living in the home. And the reason that I say that, and you all have heard me say that before, is because for some people who were not able to have children, it's a very painful subject. And if you bring up kids, they're automatically turned off, right? Because you've brought up, they're associating you with a painful conversation. Same for spouses. Sometimes spouses leave, sometimes spouses marriages end in divorce, sometimes spouses pass away. So we want to really be neutral in our conversations with people as we're talking with them. Does everybody get that? Yeah. Okay, good. So we get to the facts in a very roundabout, general way. And so how many people are going to be living in the home? Is the 3rd bedroom for a home office? Oh no, I have 2 kids. Oh, okay. And how old are your kids? Once they bring it up, then you can talk to it. How old are your kids? And oh, that's fantastic. And so are schools important? You know, if they start talking about kids, you're going to start talking about schools, and then you're going to offer to send them school information. And the 2 sites that I use are, just so you know, SchoolDigger, DIGGER.com, and greatschools.org. Those are also excellent sources if somebody starts asking you questions of a nature that you can't answer because of fair housing. Like, you know, what's the breakdown of this community as far as, you know, elderly and young? Well, you can't give that information out, but there's a whole lot of that information that's available on those 2 sites. They break down how many kids are on school lunch programs. They break down the ratio of students to teachers, and any of you with kids know, well, Melissa, you probably know about this. But anyway, so I'm just going to keep doing those buyer intake questions to the extent that I can. You have to keep in mind, this is not a buyer consultation, but it's a sign call. So what your goal is to get the appointment, right? So, so if the person said, you know, if you say, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for, and then I can tell you a little bit more about this home. What price range are you looking in? And have you been talking with the lender? Have you been pre-approved with the lender? Those are the kind of questions that you're going to ask. If they say, yes, we've been pre-approved with the lender, you know they're serious. They're looking right now. Another question that you can ask them, depending on how the conversation goes, is when are you looking to be in your new home? And if they say, you know, well, we're just looking now 6 months out, well, you know, you're going to nurture them, right? You're going to start a relationship, but you might not have an appointment with them right away. You might meet them for coffee just to get to know them a little bit, and then nurture them so that when they hear from you, they know who you are. But if they say, well, we're pre-approved and we're looking right now, oh, great, who's your lender? Because you want to get a feel for that. And that's when typically at that point, I'll say, something like, you know, it sounds like I've got a number of homes in mind that might be a good fit for you, including this one. When would be a good time for us to meet so I could show some homes with you? And of course, I have already asked, are you working with a realtor? And if they say yes, then I back off, right? Or I ask, oh, great, who is it? Because I might know who it is. And that I might provide some help in that way. So if it's somebody that I know, I might say, you know, I'll be glad to show the home if I'm over there, that kind of thing. In fact, we had a case where Corey knew, who's in the growth group. She actually, even though the buyer said they had a realtor, she called the lender and said, I'll be glad to show your buyers the home that they want to see. And she was of so much help that the agent called her back and said, you know what, I appreciate so much what you did that I'm going to give you a part of my commission. And so she gave her a part of her commission for being helpful. So even though we live in a competitive world, it's still I think a good service all the way around to do good things without expecting anything from it. And sometimes things do come from it. And certainly the buyers are appreciative. And even if they're, I mean, I have people who have realtors, but because they couldn't work with me because they already had signed with the realtor, they sent me somebody else because I was consistently helpful and provided value. So you can do that as well. Okay, I've been talking nonstop for about 20 minutes. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I was just thinking back to when you were talking about the seller that you're meeting with, and they said that they were going to live somewhere temporarily for a year. Mm-hmm. Would you, or do you then offer to try to find them someplace to rent? Or I don't know how renting works with real estate, like exactly. So I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I do not work in rentals. So what but there are plenty of people in PC who do. So what I would say is, do you need help finding a home or a temporary housing? And if you do, I can certainly put you with somebody who will be glad to help you and has some knowledge in that area. So, and then that person can find out, do they want a single family home? Do they want an apartment? That kind of thing. But we can help people with rentals. Typically the commission is either the first month rent or a portion of the first month rent. I see commissions like $300, $500 when I look at rental properties for people occasionally. So if you do a volume business, it can be lucrative, but if you, and I'm just going to say this, I was on, as an agent, if you haven't already started getting solicitations for different programs, you will. Your inbox will be full of them. Your Facebook will be full of them. It will be the next greatest best thing. And everybody's trying to get your attention so they can sign you up for whatever it is they want you signed up for. Some of what's out there is really good. And I vet them before. I vet, just like before I buy anything online, I vet who I'm going to talk to, because I'm always planning my budget, my marketing budget 6 months in advance. So right now it's the second quarter. I've already planned this quarter what I'm going to do, but I'm looking now toward what I'm going to do in January of 2022. And so I was talking with this guy yesterday from a company called the Listing Lab, and they actually have and I have to watch the video because I told him I was too busy yesterday. But anyway, he was saying that since he's been doing the program, he's a realtor too. And he said that he's focused only on families. He's not working with investors. He's not working. Good, how are you? Yeah. Yeah, she's working down there. She's right down there. So yeah, nice to talk. Nice to see you, Dick. So anyway, apologies, guys. So anyway, he said that he is focused only on one thing, and he's really referring out the other business, and he's doing so much better, and his volume of business has gone up. And what that really is he's just dealing in a niche, right? So so back to your question, Ryan, yes, we can help people with rentals, but it's a choice of whether you want to spend your time that way. If I felt that the client was so in need of my services, I would definitely step up and I would partner with somebody. But in this case, I feel like they're pretty savvy, so I don't think they're going to need my help. And the other thing is if they're going into an apartment, a lot of times if an agent comes into an apartment situation, the apartment complex won't give a discount because they pay the commission. Whereas if somebody goes on their own to an apartment, and I don't like to take that away from people. So typically, if you're going into an apartment, there's a reason. So any other conversation? So anyway, it went back to the buyer off the sign. What my goal is to get an appointment. So I'm going to say, this home might be of interest for you, it sounds like. And there are a couple of others that come to mind. And of course, I'm going to get online and research. And when would be a good time for us to meet? And just keep in mind, our market moves very fast. So the sooner we can meet, the better, right? And then is weekday better for you or weekend better for you, morning or afternoon? And then you set the time. And then you can The other thing I've learned in business is you always have to confirm everything at least 2 days before. And if not the day before, because people forget, they don't put it on their calendar, even if you send a calendar invite. A lot of people aren't as focused on their calendar as we realtors are. So it's really important just to call them and say, you know, hey, I'm looking forward to our meeting. And also you have in your conversation, ask them, how would you prefer that I contact you? How would you prefer our communication to be? So if they say calling is fine, then I would call them. If they say text, I would text them. And if they say email, I would email them. Most people these days are saying phone or text. So any questions so far? Any comments? Does anybody want to practice a little bit? This is called the safe zone. See this back here? It says love. So this is the thing that I love Denise Buchanan, who used to be the team leader here. And she was the team leader when I was at Keller Williams before. And she used to say, I love you and I can love you so much, but I don't want to love you right out of this business. So the way raising your hand and saying, yes, I'll practice is a really good way to, it's a good way to just get better. Okay, still no takers. You guys are killing me. All right, well, any other conversations that you want to know about? Do you want me to go over how you talk to people when you're out and about? Okay, so Ryan, you're the only one on video, so I'm gonna choose you. So I'm gonna say, man, your hair is so pretty. Who does your hair? I love the color of it. I've always wanted to be blonde, but it doesn't look good on me. But who does your hair?
Oh, her name is Gwen. She works at a salon loft nearby.
Where is that? Where's Salon Loft?
It's up on Medlock Bridge.
Okay. And so we're going to be at Starbucks. So I'm going to go, oh, well, so what's your favorite thing to get here? I'm going to be a little weird and people are going to be like at first going, but then after a minute, they're going to be okay with it. And the other thing that I'm going to see is I'm going to watch body language. And if somebody is really not into it, I'm just going to back off. But if I see somebody, a lot of times when you notice somebody or notice something about them, they're really flattered, right? So I just try and find something about everybody that I think is a good thing. It's just trying to find a good quality in somebody. Maybe you heard them. I mean, yesterday I chased down this woman because I saw KW on her car. So I chased her down in the grocery store and we had this nice conversation. And she's not a client, but you know, who knows? I may maybe on the other side of a contract with her one day and she'll remember that meeting. Does anybody, well, we've got 4 minutes, so I'm just curious, does anybody have any hesitation about meeting people out and about? Does anybody
No.
have any, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'm pretty comfortable. Just I like talking to strangers. So
How about, good. See, that's the way I am too, Melissa. How about door knocking? Any questions around door knocking? What to say?
yeah, that terrifies me.
Okay, so Greta Massey and Drew Patrick and Donna Patrick, to my knowledge, are the people who are doing a lot of door knocking right now. So I'd love to hear what they have to say. What I would probably say is if I knocked on somebody's door, I would have something of value for them. Just so you know, I have a friend who's in the promo business, and she was telling me lately that there's a company this woman has created, and she has paper, but this paper has seeds embedded in it. So you can plant the paper and different things will grow. She has some that are flowers, some that are herbs, some that are this, some that are that. But they come in, you can get them in postcards. So you actually mail a postcard and then the person can plant it. You can get business cards made like that. You can get, you know, you could have a little postcard for your door knocking things that said, you know, curb appeal is everything, or whatever marketing idea you came up with. But I would go up to the door and I would say, for me, I would typically only do it around a listing or a sale of a home where I represented the buyer or seller. So I would door knock and I would say, hi, I would have looked them up and I'd say, are you Mr. and Mrs. Jones? And if they say yes, I go, oh, hi, I'm Candace Story. I just sold that listing down the street, that home down the street, and you've got some new neighbors moving in. I hear they're really great. And I just wanted to stop by and, give you a little present to celebrate. We're celebrating. Paige Pace does this, and she does a wine cart, and she has bottles. She goes to Two Buck Chuck, and she has bottles of red and bottles of white. And I would probably add in sparkling cider for non-drinkers because we're in the Southeast, right? But she has a little card that says, there's no crying in real estate, but there's always wine, WINE, which is really cute. And so she'll go out and she'll say, hey, we're celebrating and just sold the listing down the street. So we're celebrating. Would you like a bottle of red? Would you like a bottle of white? And then she's able to give them their card and start a conversation. They say, oh, how much does it sell for? Of course, everybody wants to know that. Oh, it's sold for such and such amount in, it's sold for $480,000. I don't know why I've got 80 stuck in my head. Sold for $480,000 and we sold it in 3 days. Do you know of anybody who wants to sell? This is a great time. And then you start the conversation and then you have to have a follow-up for that. We'll talk about follow-up a little bit later. I just feel like you guys are just the hardest audience today.
How effective has she found that to be?
Oh, excellent. That's how she built her business.
Really?
Yeah. And she's done about, and the other thing you can do is when you have an open house, if you volunteer to do an open house, you can go door knock the morning of or the day before and say, hey, we're having an open house. And this is a way for you to door knock around somebody else's listing so that you can start generating business, volunteer to do the open house. And then you go to the neighbors and you say, hey, we're having an open house this Sunday or today from 12 to 4, but we're having a special invitation for neighbors only from 11 to 12. You can come from 12 to 4, but we wanted to give you all a special time when you could come see the house for yourself. So I look forward to seeing you. Here's my information. And by the way, we're doing a drawing, whatever you want to do. We're doing a drawing for a, Starbucks gift card. Would you like to give me your information and I'll enter you in the drawing? That kind of thing. And that's how you get their contact information. Or would you like me to send you the valuation of your home? That's how you get their contact information. So that's pretty much what I have for you for today. I'll see you tomorrow, and I'm just going to say drink coffee before you get on so you talk more. Thank you for those of you who participated. And I'll see the rest of you. You all take care.
All right. Thanks, Candace.
All right. Thanks. Bye.